While Milano, may not be the first city a tourist thinks of when planning a trip to Italy, it has more than its share of attractions, not to mention history. For all its workaholic reputation as the money and business center of Italy, it's a city with an influential past and a rich cultural heritage. Consider that St. Augustine was baptized in a basilica that stood at what is now Piazza del Duomo. Artists Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, the composer Verdi, the great tenor Enrico Caruso, and designer Giorgio Armani all lived and worked here. Toscanini conducted regularly at La Scala. Napoleon was crowned, actually, he crowned himself, inside the Duomo. Mussolini founded the fascist party here. And the entire fashion world looks to Milan's catwalks twice a year for the season's fashions. All this history, not to mention the considerable wealth generated by its favored commercial position, has left Milan with an abundance of art, cultural, and architectural treasures for you to enjoy. The large Piazza del Duomo in front of the cathedral is metro hub, and you'll find plenty of things to do near the Duomo. In tiny Piazza dei Mercanti, you will feel as though you've stepped back into the Middle Ages as you stand beneath the stone market arcade in front of the 13th-century Palazzo della Ragione. The massive Cathedral of Santa Maria Nascent, which the Milanese call just Il Duomo, is among the world's largest. It holds up to 40,000 people, and most magnificent churches, the ultimate example of the flamboyant Gothic style. It was begun in the 14th century, but its facade was not completed until the early 1800s, under Napoleon. The roof is topped by 135 delicately carved stone pinnacles, and the exterior is decorated with 2,245 marble statues. The dim interior, in striking contrast to the brilliant and richly patterned exterior, makes a powerful impression with its 52 gigantic pillars. The stained glass windows in the nave, mostly 15th–16th centuries, are the largest in the world. The earliest of them are in the south aisle. Highlights include the 7-branched bronze candelabrum by Nicholas of Burton, c. 1200, in the north transept, the 16th-century tomb of Gian Giacomo Medici, and the jeweled gold reliquary of San Carlo Borromeo in the octagonal Borromeo chapel leading off the crypt. Behind the high altar, the choir has deeply carved panels and misericords under the seats. In the south sacristy is the treasury with gold and silver work dating from the 4th to the 17th century. A walk on the roof of the cathedral is an impressive experience, offering views across the city and extending on clear days to the snow-covered Alps. An elevator ascends all but the last 73 steps to the platform of the dome. The Gothic brick church of Santa Maria del Grazie, in the Corso Magente, was begun about 1465, and its massive 6-sided dome in the finest early Renaissance style was designed by Bramante, one of Italy's most influential Renaissance architects. The church and adjoining refectory, which holds Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, were badly damaged in World War II, and during the repair work, old sgraffito paintings in the dome were brought to light. At the end of the north aisle is the Baroque chapel of the Madonna del Grazie, with an altarpiece of the Madonna. But the reason most tourists visit Santa Maria del Grazie is to see da Vinci's most famous work, painted on the refectory wall of the former Dominican monastery. The Cenacolo Vinciano, as it is called here, was painted on the wall in tempera between 1495 and 1497. Instead of earlier static representations of Christ's last meal with his disciples, da Vinci presents a dramatic depiction of the scene, which was quite novel and marked an important new stage in the development of art, forming one side of Piazza del Duomo and opening on the other side to Piazza della Scala. The Grand Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II was designed by Giuseppe Mingoni and built between 1865 and 1877. It was then the largest shopping arcade in Europe, with a dome soaring 48 meters above its mosaic floor. Marking the beginning of modern architecture in Italy, today it stands as a splendid example of 19th-century industrial iron and glass construction. And it's still a beautiful, vibrant place where locals meet for lunch or coffee in its elegant cafes and browse in its luxury shops. The Castello Sforzesco, held by the Visconti and the Sforza families who ruled Milan from 1277 to 1447 and from 1450 to 1535 respectively, was built in 1368 and rebuilt in 1450. The 70-meter Torre de Filarete is a 1905 reproduction of the original gate tower. The Castello houses the Musei del Castello Sforzesco, a series of museums, one of which features sculpture. The collection includes the Pietà Rondinini, Michelangelo's last masterpiece, brought here in 1953 from the Palazzo Rondinini in Rome. Other museums feature a collection of decorative art, prehistoric and Egyptian antiquities, a collection of musical history, and an armory of weapons and medieval armor. The picture gallery includes paintings by Bellini, Correggio, Mantegna, Bergognone, Papa, Lotto, Tintoretto, and Antonello da Messina. Between the two rear courtyards of the Castello, a passage leads into the park, originally the garden of the Dukes of Milan and later a military training ground. The Renaissance Palazzo di Brera, built between 1651 and 1773, was originally a Jesuit college, but since 1776 has been the Accademia di Belle Arti, Academy of Fine Arts. Along with a library and observatory, it contains the Pinacoteca di Brera, one of Italy's finest art museums. Much of the art was acquired as churches closed or were demolished, and the museum is especially strong in paintings by northern Italian masters. As you enter through the courtyard, you'll see an 1809 monument to Napoleon I by the sculptor Canova. Notable among 15th-century pictures are works by Mantegna, Madonna in a ring of angels' heads and Lamentation. The Venetian masters are represented by Giovanni Bellini, Lamentation and two Madonnas, Paolo Veronese, Titian, Count Antonio Porcia and Saint Jerome, and Tintoretto, Binding of Saint Mark's Body and Descent from the Cross, and portraits by Lorenzo Lotto and Giovanni Battista Moroni. The Lombard masters, disciples of Leonardo da Vinci, are well represented, as are artists of the Ferrarese school. Correggio of Parma is represented by a Nativity and an Adoration of the Kings. Artists of the Umbrian school include Piero della Francesca, Madonna with Saints and Duke Federico da Montefeltro, and Bramante, 8 frescoes Christ of the Column. The most famous picture in the gallery is Raphael's Marriage of the Virgin, Lo Sposalizio, the finest work of his first period. Outstanding among foreign masters are Rembrandt, portraits of women, including the artist's sister,